Good afternoon. My name is Dumas, and I will be presenting my Southwest Airlines case. Southwest Airlines History Overview. The Southwest Airlines Company, originally known as Air Southwest, was first incorporated in March of 1967 by Mr. Roland King and Herb Keller. In March of 1971, Air Southwest officially changed its name to Southwest Airlines, and 2 months later they opened their first base in Dallas, Texas. When King and Keller first decided to start this airline, they had one concept in mind. If you get your passengers to their destinations when they want to get there, on time, at the lowest possible fares, and make darn sure they have a good time doing it, people will fly your airline. To this day, Southwest Airlines is the #1 leading low-cost domestic airline in the United States. Airline Industry Analysis. Porter's five-force model is a model used to answer the question, what attracts certain companies from others in this industry? Porter's five-force model breaks down this answer in 5 categories: bargaining powers of buyers, bargaining powers of suppliers, threats of new entrants, threats of substitutes, and rivalry among existing companies. First off, we start off with bargaining powers of buyers. The airline industry has collected over $157 billion of market share the past year, all due to its four main buyers. For one, we had the private consumers, and these were our first two buyers come from the coach and first class customers. 72% of the airline industry's market share comes from this segment of individuals, which is over $110 billion worth of revenue. 62% of their share comes from coach customers, while the other 10% comes from customers who fly first class. The third buyer in this industry are the businesses, and these are basically the business trips and exporting and importing of goods. 25% of the airline industry's market share comes from this portion of customers. Even though most businesses use airlines to export and import goods, they use at least a third of their expenses on business trips. Typically, when they do, companies buy the premium package, which is the best deal they offer. And lastly, we have freight forwarders. These are the organizers. Only 3% of the market share comes from this portion of consumers. They are the ones who handle the cargo and flights for the customers. Part of the reason Southwest Airlines profits year after year is because they have low prices to offer their customers, thus keeping customers satisfied to come back again and again. Next, we have bargaining powers of suppliers. The biggest suppliers for the industry are usually manufacturers. In this case, there are four main suppliers. One, we have Airbus. Airbus is the world leading aircraft manufacturer whose industrial management and engineering proficiency has boosted it to the head of the airline industry. Boeing. Boeing is the leading marketing jetline manufacturer. This manufacturer operates more than 90% of the world's import and export shipments. Next, we have Bombardier. Bombardier designs, assembles, and supports advanced flight products for the business, commercial, and specialized aircraft markets. And lastly, we have Spirit Aerosystems. Spirit Aerosystems is one of the major self-regulating manufacturers of marketable aerostructures. They offer aftermarket amenities such as MRO services, replacement parts, and engineering assistance. Threats of new entrants. Barriers to enter the airline industry are high and steady. New establishments would have a hard time progressing in this industry, and it's all part to do with existing major companies may use their financial prudence of scale to obtain business by steadily weakening minor companies on price and speed of distribution. The third is substitutes. Over the years, traveling by air has been one of the most preferred ways of transportation. Although it may be the more preferred, there are three other means of transportation are seen as a threat. For one, we have cars. Some passengers hate the fact of being in the air because most grow to have a phobia of heights. Also, some find that it's cost efficient to drive their own cars or to rent one at least. In addition, some travelers love the ability to sightsee, something that you cannot get out of flying. Next, we have trains. A lot of train industry are used for personal and business reasons. People use trains more often when it's more convenient for them than an airport. Also, businesses use them to transport their goods from state to state as well. And lastly, boats. More and more people are beginning to go on cruises in order to get from place to place. Also, boats have become one of the biggest carriers for importing and exporting company goods. A rivalry among existing companies. Competition amongst companies in this industry is very high. Every company is fighting year in and year out to have more control of the industry's market share. There are four main airlines who are known as the front runners in this industry. First off, we have American Airlines Group Incorporated. They control 20% of the overall market share. American Airlines Group Incorporated is the binding establishment for AMR Corporation, which is a conjunction of American Airlines and U.S. Airways. The airline is able to accumulate an average of 6,700 trips each day to 339 locations in 54 countries, as well as over 100,000 staff employees. Second, we have Delta Airlines Incorporated. They control 18.6% of the overall market share to the industry. Delta Airlines is one of the world's major airlines that has airports in Atlanta, Cincinnati, Detroit, Memphis, Minneapolis, New York, Salt Lake City, Amsterdam, and Tokyo. Delta Airlines offers flights to 341 locations in 61 countries and more than 13,000 flights a day. They also have merged with Northwest Airlines a few years ago. Second, we have United Continental Holdings Incorporated. They control 16.4% of the overall market share of the airline industry. United Continental Holdings Incorporated is a branding company for United Airlines and Continental Airlines. United Continental Holdings Incorporated is now one of the major airlines in the world when it comes to revenue. It assists about 5,600 flights a day to 375 different locations around the world. And last but not least, we have Southwest Airlines. They control 13.8% of the overall market share of the airlines industry. Southwest Airlines is the major low-cost airline company in the United States. The company is a merge of Southwest Airlines and Airtrain Airways brand to make it the biggest domestic U.S. airline. Southwest Airlines Corporation has over 46,000 employees working full-time with the company. Also, it has extended its low-cost, no-frills, open seating method to airways throughout the United States to assist 97 cities and 41 states. Southwest Airlines major problem. Southwest is experiencing problems with the intensive strategy of market penetration. This is the problem because they use of only utilizing one type of aircraft, the Boeing 737, and it is not producing the market share Southwest Airlines hoped for. This, along with the limited areas they fly, puts it at a downfall in the industry that is rapidly growing and highly competitive. Southwest Airlines sub-problems. Out of the 52.1 billion market share of the industry, Southwest Airlines has only been responsible for 13.8% of that share. Another issue contributing to this problem is the poor operating profit margin of 7.2%. Although Southwest Airlines uses one aircraft to utilize its ability to offer its customers such low rates on flights, it is not profiting more than it is having to spend. Even though Southwest Airlines has produced a decent amount of revenue increase over previous years, it is still a few million less than the other dominating airline industries. Southwest Airlines alternative strategies. The problem of the intensive strategy of market penetration without Southwest Airlines has three alternative strategies that could serve as a solution. For one, we have the defensive strategy of retrenchment. This occurs when regrouping through cost and asset reduction to reverse declining sales and profit. Secondly, we have intensive strategy of market development. This is where introducing present products or services into new geographic areas. And lastly, the integration strategy of backward integration. This is where seeking ownership of increased control of the firm's suppliers. Alright, let's talk about the alternative strategy of retrenchment. Even though they have consistently brought in revenue, the expenses of the aircrafts are exceeding the profit of the assets. Southwest Airlines should consider cutting employment to replenish income towards its market share. Some advantages of doing this will be an increase in revenue from the increase of production. Secondly, the potential to possibly become a bigger producer than their competitors. And lastly, the chances to grow financially. This also has its disadvantages. There's always a worry of not living up to the projected turnover expected. Also, reducing too much assets could hurt in the long run. And if your financial team does not successfully acquire the sales or revenue projected, there could be a loss in assets and finances. Next, the alternative strategy of market development. Basically, they should offer their customers more desired destination routes in more locations. Most of the routes Southwest Airlines offer are toward the southeast region of North America. If they would expand their flight routes to the northern and western region of North America, it would help in the expansion purpose of the strategy. Also, internationally, they only offer places in Canada, Latin America, and the Caribbean. Some advantages of doing this strategy would be a bigger target market, the ability to increase in customer-based sales, ratings, and flights per day, and the ability to increase the number of companies for the specific airline. Some disadvantages for this would be the chance of targeting an area that prefers one of the competing industries, selling in a financially deprived area resulting in no cash flow, and resulting in a continuation of the profits that have been going on. The last alternative strategy of backward integration. Airbus is the number one aircraft supplier that Southwest Airlines should target simply because they produce most of the needs that airlines have and they carry the highest numbers compared to other distributors. Also, the supplier Boeing is the biggest supplier in the United States. Since they carry the same aircraft as Southwest Airlines and other competing airlines, having control of this supplier will increase the chance of getting newer aircraft. Some advantages of this would be the chance of pulling existing suppliers into the industry, the ability to potentially find more cost-efficient suppliers than the company's current suppliers, and the potential to grow within the industry. Some disadvantages of this would be not being able to afford the supplier's demand for the product, reduces its ability to be more diverse than the other competitors, and unless the company increases its prices or of the assets, the balance in credits and debits will turn bad towards the end of the fiscal year. Southwest Airlines solution. A solution strategy for this would be the alternative intensive strategy of market development. By effectively expanding its routes will sustain its low-cost flights will increase Southwest Airlines revenue tremendously. Also, by expanding their routes, Southwest Airlines will potentially gain more customers. Offering more destinations to people for business and personal reasons will allow them to attract more people through the low-cost flight and no-frills method. Alright. Southwest Airlines strategy implementation. When implementing the market development strategy, there are certain departments that must do their jobs in order for things to change effectively. First off, we have the management department. Everyone knows all decisions go through management. As far as Southwest Airlines, their management team is set up quite different. They consist of 31 department vice presidents, 7 senior vice presidents, 5 executive vice presidents, and the chairman of the board. They are responsible for carefully analyzing all reports that come to them. They receive all the knowledge from other vice president departments pertaining to the issue and hopes to find a solution. If all of the data submitted is carefully and thoroughly reviewed by each of the senior vice presidents, then it will become easier for the executive vice presidents to do their job. They are responsible for strategically coming up with a plan of action that will be sufficient enough for the president to agree upon. Therefore, the president looks at the plan and makes a determined decision. Next, we have the marketing department. They are responsible for getting the company's brand name known. Last year, the company started a new advertising operation in which they call transparency. I believe their market approach should target more customers and its distributors. The focus is to increase the revenue by expanding its different areas. Therefore, the target market should be the distributors and customers since they both play a huge role in successfully implementing the expansion. If the distributors saw how effective Southwest Airlines low-cost strategy worked, then it could pursue them to decrease their costs, allowing them to have a comfortable transition to a new area. Next, the financial department. They are responsible for looking at the numbers and make projections on what will and will not work. Taking a look at the financial statement, we can see that there has been a slight increase in revenue each year. Despite the increase, it is not sufficient enough for the services Southwest Airlines offers. If the accounting department could project the number of total assets that need to be cut in order to see a substantial increase, then the finance department could negotiate prices with distributors. Showing that along with the projected sales for the location they are planning to establish in will help persuade them even more. By showing the benefits of the cuts in assets, it will allow the distributors to see their gain from doing so. And lastly, the human resource department. They are responsible for employment satisfaction. The company has roughly 63,000 workers with numerous responsibilities. Their job would be simple, just continue to maximize production. If the Southwest Airlines were to receive a cut in assets, their employees must maintain if not exceed the production rate. Even though with the expansion to a new location, there will be a big need for more employees. So in this case, that's when the option of hiring seasonal workers would come into play. Southwest Airlines control and backup. So we saw these departments had certain responsibilities to maintain in order for a positive outcome to occur, or they would have to find a backup plan. So as for the management department, depending on the outcome from the data, the managers must either see an increase in revenue or a standstill. Even though a standstill is not the best thing for the company to have, it's still a good thing to see other than a drop in revenue. Managers must demand weekly updates of all areas of business as well as personally handling some of it at home. If they expect their workers to pull more weight, it will be more effective to see them do the same thing. If the strategy continues to be stagnant or even start declining in revenue, then I believe the strategy should stay the same, but the responsibilities must change. There should be different people placed in authority positions that will get the job done the right way. Next, the marketing department. Here, the marketing managers must constantly hold meetings with distributors showing the consistency of the company's income. If distributors become convinced, then the strategy will begin to see immediate changes in a progressive way. If distributors are not convinced from the reports of the marketing managers, then there will have to be another plan of action. It would then be the job of the managers and the managing department to meet with distributors and show further reasons as why they should do it. At the financial department, the managers in this department could constantly keep the upper management informed of the changes in income, good or bad. To show increases, they should complete new projections based on monthly changes in numbers. If the projections are looking good, then the strategy is going great. If the projections begin to show declining income, then it is their job to show where the decrease is coming from, whether it pertains to assets, location, or even the target market. They must show where the problem is and what it's going to take to fix it. And lastly, the human resource department. Depending on the decision of distributors, the employees may see one or two things. For one, a lot of the seasonal workers may continue on full-time with the company to keep up with the production that distributors demand to see. Even if some of the workers stayed, the wages would be paid would balance out with the rest of the company income to continue seeing increases. On the other hand, the company may have other alternatives for the workers. The employees may have increased the production, so much that they cut the seasonal workers as well as lay off some of the original staff members. Although they will be putting some out of the job, if it's best for the company and expansion, then it will happen, especially if the nominal income will increase in a tremendous way. So what did Southwest Airlines really do? They have in fact increased their market location by operating in the United States and now 6 other countries. They are still operating through one aircraft, the Boeing 737. Southwest Airlines has also increased their revenue to $608 million compared to the $465 million they incurred the previous year. Southwest Airlines have also found ways to reduce expenses pertaining to fuel costs, allowing them to save more than $500 million in fuel expenses, which is a 27% difference from the previous year. This helped with the low revenue they acquire, in turn allowing them to achieve a greater amount due to expenses not exceeding profit as usual. Southwest Airlines has the largest Boeing convoy in the United States, which is why they are continuing to acquire more aircraft and effectively utilize them. Southwest Airlines ratio analysis. All of the industry ratios given were from the RMA 2013-2014 annual statement studies. Gross profit margin. The industry did not give one, but the company had 53.1%. Operating profit margin. The industry had 12.6, and the company had 7.2. Industry for the net profit margin, they had 3.64%. The company had 4.26%. Return on assets. The industry had 1.2. The company had 3.97. Return on equity. Industry had 8.5 and the company had 10.52. Current ratio. The industry had 1.3 and the company had 0.79. Quick ratio. The industry accumulated 0.8 and the company had 0.63. Debit to assets. Industry had 0.837 and the company had 0.62. Debit to equity. Industry had 5.13 and the company had 1.63. Long-term debit to equity. The industry had 1.00 and the company had 0.86. Inventory turnover. The industry did not give one, but the company had 16.4. Total asset turnover. The industry had 0.8 and the company had 0.914. And the fixed asset turnover. The industry had 1.1 and the company had 1.32. Credits. Listed in the next few slides are all the books and articles I used for this presentation. I do not take credit for any other work done within this assignment. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation.